Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 2021 Candidates Forum, Meet the Candidates Forum, where you obviously have come to be informed, better informed about your different candidates that are running for this year's board. First of all, I'd like to ask that all in attendance please silence your cell phones to show courtesy to our candidates in already a nervous enough situation, I think, as it is. Thank you. With that being stated, if you will all rise, we would like to have the Pledge of Allegiance at this time. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Kara. My apologies. I thought we were going to have the bold version of the Pledge of Allegiance assisting us tonight. So thank you for that. I want to go over a few things, a few housekeeping items. First of all, I don't know if I mentioned this at the front end of this. My name is Jim Morgan. I'm the general manager here at the Colony, and it's my pleasure to be here and be a part of this evening with you. We will be introducing several people that have been involved in this evening's forum. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the election itself and the ballot. You're going to be receiving an envelope like this. Kim, they go out in the mail this week? Okay, you already have them. So I'm going to cut right to the chase here. Your ballot, the instructions, you can vote for only 3 of the candidates. Another very important point, the ballot must be in this gold envelope and sealed in order for it to be counted. Another very important point is on the white envelope, you have your name and your address that need to be printed on it, but it also requires your signature in order for your ballot to be counted. You remember those things, your vote will be counted in part of this vote. We ask that you, for quorum purposes, we ask that you have your ballot submitted before the 16th of September. That gives it time to get to the Inspector of Election. If we find that we are running low on receiving ballots, again, it's not trying to push the vote, it's just trying to meet quorum. If we see that we're running short, we are going to get the word out to the community that we need more ballots turned in so that we can even hold the meeting. We have to have a quorum in order to even have the election. Also, please do not bring your ballots to the clubhouse. They must be mailed. There's a self-addressed and postage-paid envelope, the white envelope. It goes directly to the Inspector of Election, who is in San Diego area or Escondido area. They will be here the day of the election to tabulate the vote as well and serve as our Inspector of Election. And then the name of that third-party company is the Inspector of Election. Some introductions. We have our timekeepers. Every time we have had this, we've had our staff come up and assist with the timekeeping. Kimberly Evans, Katie Burchard, and Kara Hardy. And thank you for being here tonight. We have our question review panel, Shirley Leidenfrost, Doris Zeif, and Mary Detmers. There, she's in the back. She's walking her way back over. So this evening and how it's going to work. The candidacy statements. Candidates drew, as you may have seen up here at the front, random numbers prior to this forum to determine the order they will present their candidacy statement. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to present their statement. The timekeepers will hold up a sign at the 1 minute remaining mark, the 30 seconds remaining mark, and at the 5 minute mark, a thank you sign will be held up and the candidate will end their remarks at that time. The question and answer portion. As mentioned, questions will be received in written form only. Each question will be reviewed by the question review panel. We've had several that have already been turned in and have gone through the question review panel and have been approved already for this evening's Q&A portion. The appropriate questions are forwarded to the moderator and then the question asked of the candidates. The questions will be directed to the candidates starting in alphabetical order by last name. After the first question has been answered by each candidate, the second question will then start with the second alphabetical order candidate and will rotate accordingly until there are no further questions of the candidates. However, we will do our best to end this meeting by 8 p.m. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each respective question. Our timekeepers will follow the same procedure as was used during the candidacy statement portion of the forum, 30 seconds and thank you signs. Some residents have submitted questions as mentioned prior to this meeting. Those questions have been reviewed by the question review panel and are ready for this meeting. You do have the opportunity, if you want to submit a question, you could submit it during the meeting to the directly to the question review panel. We just, again, if because of the rotation and the candidates having the opportunity to be the first to answer a question, I don't believe that we are going to go into a second rotation where there would only be some candidates that would have to answer 2 questions first as opposed to one. So it's more than likely going to be limited to 1 rotation, 7 questions. Yeah. No, you have 1 minute to respond. Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, it's almost an hour when we deal with 1 round. So, yes. Just in order to, if there are any expectations that there will be questions that are related to the golf course, in order to avoid any potential infringement upon attorney-client privilege, and at the advisement of our association's litigating attorney, there will be no golf course-related questions asked of the candidates at tonight's forum. Lastly, I would like to read to you the code of conduct that's expected of our candidates as well as those in attendance to view this forum. The association appreciates the candidates and your participation in this year's forum. In an effort to maintain proper decorum, we respectfully ask that all in attendance be courteous to the individual candidates and your fellow homeowners who have come to this meeting to be informed. Furthermore, audible verbal questions and or statements from the audience, as well as other disruptive behavior, will not be allowed. Anyone creating a disturbance will be asked to leave the meeting. With that, takes care of the housekeeping portion. And what I'd like to do at this time is introduce our moderator, who is Bruce Hartwig. He is currently the chair of our Access Control and Safety Committee, and he also has served on our board for several years in the past. So with that, Bruce, it's all yours.
I'm not sure I want it. Welcome everybody to the Meet the Candidates night. We have, I think, an outstanding group of candidates with a broad range of backgrounds. I think we'll might as well just kick it off and get started with the candidate statements. Let me introduce them first. Tom Bracken, Bruce Delfonso, Bonnie Graham, Wendell Jackson, Jim Nash, and Pam Bliss. Did I miss Joanne? I apologize. Okay, we'll start off with our first candidate, Pam Bliss.
Glasses. Hello, everyone. I think one of the questions you all will be interested in having us answer for you is, why are we running for the board? Is it okay? Can you hear? Oh. Is that better? Okay. Let me start again then. I think one of the questions all of you will be interested in hearing from us would be, why are we running for the board in the first place? You know, over the past few years, there seemed to have been a shift in how the residents are being treated here. Requests for information or documents are ignored. Questions go unanswered. It seems like there's a harsher tone is now being used with some of us. Rules are being written where no real problems exist. I mean, for example, have there really been big problems with leaving extra lemons in a box in somebody's driveway? Even rights of new residents are being stripped and withheld for a year for no real reason. Being on the board of directors shouldn't mean trying to find new ways to control. Board members should be there to serve and protect the community, but it seems like that's become twisted a little bit, and sometimes it's like the community serving the board. There is now a total lack of accountability or any consequences. I think one reason for this is because of the absence of HOA business being conducted out in the open. And a recent example of that is how the pool pavilion project was conducted. You know, I truly believe that most people in here were not against upgrading the barbecue area, but rather there were a lot of unanswered questions, and it lacked information because everything was done behind closed doors. If it doesn't bother you that over $5,000 of your money was spent without your knowledge for a promotional video that even some board members were not even allowed to participate in, then you shouldn't be voting for me, because I think that was completely wrong. Ask yourself why the board won't provide a detailed budget if asked to do so, and is actually fighting against doing that. Could it be that there's something in there that we shouldn't see or question? Maybe it's that we're all paying someone's cell phone bill. We are. Or maybe they don't want to explain the $6,740 spent a year labeled monthly golf club expense. What's that for? Or contracts that seem a little excessive, like our pool service. $900 for monthly service, okay? But wait, that doesn't include the chemicals. We paid another $333 for those. And then another $110 for administering pool conditioning. Did you know that between May 2020 and April 2021, we paid almost $30,000 for janitorial supplies and maintenance while the clubhouse was completely shut down? Perhaps there are good explanations for these things, but who knows if you can't get the information to begin with? I've only been able to see 1 month of the general ledger. Ask questions and try to get answers, and your questions go unanswered. So where is the accountability? The board is supposed to assign a liaison to each committee. But what I'm being told by committee members is that it looks like that has evolved into the board members running roughshod over the committees, dictating to them, and even editing information that should be coming to us. This is not what our bylaws intended. In my opinion, we need to hit that reset button and get back to the basics. Set new and clear expectations of our management company. All HOA business not under confidentiality should be conducted out in the open. It's time to bring back some checks and balances here, and it's time for us to become what we should be. The cost of living certainly isn't going down, so all contracts need to be reviewed for cost effectiveness and even the need. You know, has anybody even mentioned forming a 5-year financial plan before our dues start to skyrocket? I haven't heard. You know, I don't have a formal background in finance or accounting, but I can tell you I was an executive at a $100 million company, and I had full P&L responsibility. I think we need to get back to treating all the residents with respect on an equal basis. And all HOA business needs to be conducted out in the open. So if you don't think anything I've said makes any sense, then don't vote for me. But if you do, then let's get on with it. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, I usually write a speech, but I'm a kind of ad-lib guy. And I did write a speech, but one thing I want to say is I would love to have your vote. I was thinking about this today before I wrote everything, is there's two kinds of people running for the board. One wants to spend your money, the other wants to help you save your money. And that's how I picture it. I have tried to save you money for 4 years. And I want to say this pandemic sure messed things up. Anyway, and like I said, I've been on the board for 4 years. And 3 of it was great years. This last year was just absolutely sucked. And I voted no on the budget is because it was the worst budget I've ever seen. Okay? They keep us saying it's only $3, 10 cents a day. 10 cents a day from all the board members is $36 per person. That's a steak dinner. Why the management company eating your steak, you're eating chicken noodle soup. You know, and I just think, I don't know why they had to have that $36, but I guess they know more about it than I do. But then the following month, they want to spend $607,000 of your money. It just don't make good sense to me. I voted no on that. I voted for the building at the very beginning because I thought it was going to be a nice barbecue place. You could play cards out there. And all of a sudden I heard that they're going to have live music out there. And my house is 150 feet from the door. And they expect me to close my windows on Saturday? That's not going to happen. And in the rule book, it says you must be to a minimum quiet, minimum. And why they didn't say exempt Cortega-Dova Street. It says everybody's treated as equal. So anyway, so that's what shut it down. But the cost of it was unbelievable. They wanted to take $380,000 out of the thing. And then they were saying that it wasn't going to cost no more in your dues. And then they got to a point they was just going to cost you a postage stamp. Well, you ever ship 5 pounds of bull in a postage? I'm going to tell you, that comes up to more than a postage stamp. So, but anyway, it just was way out of hand, and I think it could have been done better. Do we need to fix the patio? Yeah, we need to fix the patio. We need to fix a lot of stuff around here that's been neglected and stuff. And and that building would have cost you $450 a square foot. I've been in construction all my life. I could have built you a castle for $450 a square foot, and with one bathroom it had and no kitchen, and it was going to cost you $450 a square foot. Something's wrong. But and I voted no on that building because I just couldn't believe it, and I'm sure everybody heard about it. And most of the people on the board don't like me anymore, but so be it. I'm a big boy. I like the odds anyway. So as the pandemic going, the clubhouse is deteriorating on the outside, terrible. Rotting beams, rusty fire lines, the pool concrete out there is deteriorating so bad you can't hardly walk on it barefooted. There's such thing as maintenance problems, and I say it has to be taken care of. So I finally got enough people on the board to let the architectural committee do some inspection. Nobody wanted it to be done, but I finally succeed on one thing. And they looked at it and they made a list of stuff that should be done, which is going to cost money. And so they need to start on the renovation of the outside of the clubhouse if they want your money to go, if you want your home value to go up. Okay, what else did I write that I'm not going to speak on right now? Anyway, there was stuff that was unbelievable wrong. I've been in a structural concrete contractor for 40 years. That pool concrete out there is going to cost you anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 to repair because it wasn't maintained. And because you have to seal that concrete because you got terrible soil out there, and they didn't put no down membrane on it. So, but anyway, that's no here or there. And my last thing is, what? That's it? Oh God, I missed the best part. But vote for me. Thank you.
My wife Lori and I, we moved here in 2018. And very simply, we love this place. It's awesome. And we do a lot of things here. It's exceeded our expectations in so many different ways. And what I want to do is I want to focus on keeping the colony as one of the premier 55 active communities in Southern California. And we have a lot of different demographics inside of our gate here. And those, that means we're going to have different needs. And as you have different needs, those are going to depend on things like what are their interests, what's their age, what's their health. And if elected, I want to work to really understand what those needs are by listening and finding out. And I want to do it through working with committees, through working with clubs, through working with the residents themselves. And I want to be listening with an open mind, not with my own agenda. The key is you got to be able to see the community through other people's eyes, through the residents' eyes, not just through my own eyes and through my own experiences. And this is one of the items that I as a candidate can bring to the table. I spent almost 38 years working for John Deere. 20 of those years were spent in sales and marketing, and I learned that before we made any decisions on any products or any product changes, we really needed to understand it from the customer's eyes. We needed to understand what it meant, not just from our own understanding, but what's it mean to be in their shoes to understand the impact. And I've already been able to use that skill in our colony a little bit. It's a small item, but I'm currently on the board of directors for the Colony Men's Golf Club. And I'm the tournament director, so I run all the tournaments. And the golf club itself has those different demographics that I talked about. We've got wide age ranges. We've got skilled golfers of different levels. We've got people of varied stages of health. And for some of the guys, we got guys that can hit the ball 250 yards. We got other people that they're at the stage of life, they struggle just getting it over the pond, and they were quitting golf. But we step back and look, what can we do? Because they weren't having fun anymore. And I worked with the board, and I implemented some changes in our tournaments. And what's happened now is we've got people that can enjoy the game again. We've got these people coming back and golfing, and what we've done is extend the playing careers of some of these guys. And here's the beauty of it. We were able to do it without sacrificing the fun and the competitive for the skilled golfers. We had to think out of the box to get this done, and that's kind of what this is all about and where I'm heading with it. I know this seems like a small thing, but the model holds true for big things and small things. It's both the same, and the key is to find better ways to make things work for all people. I don't pretend to have all the answers with all the issues that we have around here, because I don't have them. There is so much to learn from so many people in this community. That's where the answers are sitting at. You know, I joined the Architectural Control Committee, and that was an eye-opener for me. I had to spend the first 2 months really understanding what do they do and why do they do it. And after those 2 months, and after really digging into it, now I see the importance of all the paperwork that they make everybody go through, and I know it's a pain. I understand the importance of following a process and having checks and balances along the way, and that's important. I understand the importance of the ability to work with the committee, to work with the people in the office, and to work with the residents, and that's all important. You know, I can tell you now, after being on this for a while, for over a year, when I walk through the community, I see houses in a whole different way. I see this community center in a whole different way. And we have some great facilities here. Like I said, we love this place, but there's always room for improvement. You know, Tom mentioned some issues. Those are real issues, and I believe our facilities need to be held to the same standard that we require the homeowners to do with their homes. I'm on board with that. I've been disappointed in some of the maintenance over the last 2 years. And now I know there's a plan in there to get it fixed, and it's going to get fixed, but that I still want to be able to understand, how do we get to that point? And let's step back, understand what got us there, and then let's think, what are those opportunities to improve it so we don't go back there again? Another area of concern is financials. I would really, personally, I'd love to see access to more financials. But I also figure there's probably some reasons why we're not seeing some of that information. So what I want to do, I want to understand why and explore again, once you know the whys, what are the opportunities to improve the communication? Because communications is critical. What I'm talking about here, they're just a few small things. I get that. But I think what you can see, that's the example of how I operate. I'm very positive. I work in team environments very well. I also know how to work through conflict. And I can bring people together when we need to, and boy, that's really needed in this community right now. I don't have all the answers, but if I'm elected, we'll dig into the details, and let's work together to make this a place.
Good evening. I'm Wendell Jackson. I'm a little shy and bashful, so I'm going to read it rather than try to act like I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, folks, this is why vote for Wendell Jackson. The two biggest reasons would be, I have no agenda. No agenda except for wanting to keep the colony a world-class 55-plus community. We do not need board members that have their own personal agendas. What is done by the board should be for the majority of the residents. No special privileges for the few, just because they may serve on the board or be on committees. The second reason to vote for me is I am not a negative person. We have people living here now in the colony that see things only in one light, a negative light. Everything is wrong. Everything is bad. Nothing is what it should be. We have all had a rough year due to COVID, and thus have become a little more edgy and negative than before. We are a family here, a colony family, and we need to support one another all the more. I tend to see things in a positive light. Most everything is beautiful. Most everything is great. And yes, some are greater than others. Most everything is as it should be. My wife and I lived here in the colony for over 13 years. And like 99% of you, we love it here. We live in a resort. We have great friends, great facilities, tons of things to do. And yes, from time to time, we have to correct problems. But for the vast majority of things, everything is beautiful. Help me help keep the colony that world-class 55-plus community. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bonnie Graham. For those that don't know me, I'm the one that started karaoke about 15 years ago, and I've also am the president of Chorus. So mine's not going to be 5 minutes long, and I can sing a song if you want afterwards. So for 15 years, I have called the colony my home, and my love for this community, and I truly love this community, is what guided me to seek this position. I want to be a leader to guide this community into the future by building long-term value into this property. As you know, most of you may know that I'm a realtor and I know the property values and have seen this for 15 years too. As a successful businesswoman for more than 30 years, plus my years of service for the colony and my passion to do the right thing, think about that, to do the right thing, qualifies me to run for the board. I feel the board members must be curious, compassionate, committed, and to communicate to the people. I think that the board members, and there's an important triangle. There's the residents, and the board members, and management. And all three must have qualified importance, as one element does not stand alone. Too often, the residents fail to be heard, and that's why we should be running to have your voices be heard. So that's why I'm running for the board. My mission statement is to be the most progressive board member in guiding the colony into the future while implementing procedures which are beneficial to you, the residents. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Jim Nash, and I want to start by outlining some of my experience, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I'm a previous board member. I served on the board from February of 2018 through September of last year, 2.5 years, and during that time, I served 2 years as a treasurer. I also have served 8 years on the Finance Advisory Committee, still doing that now. And lastly, the last 30 years of my career I spent as a financial consultant to homeowner associations. I lead with the experience because I think for the most part, in my estimation anyway, the operations of the colony is kind of business related. We as a board have the responsibility to oversee over a $5 million annual budget and have the responsibility for overseeing approximately $20 million worth of common area assets. So I think my background is well suited to take on that responsibility. As you are probably aware, the board of directors has very broad powers. the board can and does adopt an annual budget. They set the annual dues. They make rules and regulations. They enter into contracts. And all of this is done without a vote of the residents. So you have to have confidence as residents in who you're electing for the board. Now, even though these things are not voted on, there is some opportunity for resident input and feedback and involvement in all those things. However, I think that needs to be improved. I think we've missed opportunities to more further involve residents getting input and feedback. I think it's essential. To that end, if I am elected to the board, I'm going to be an advocate for conducting a comprehensive community-wide survey, something that, to my knowledge, hasn't been done since I've lived here, which is 12 years. I think it's essential to get the feedback from the homeowners, and that survey would also serve as a report card. You know, how are we doing as an association? What are the issues? And also maybe give an insight into what homeowners feel is the direction that this community should be going. So I would be an advocate for that if on the board. I think another trait of a good board member, and having served on the board, I can attest to this, is the ability to look at an issue objectively. We all have different values and differences, and I respect that. That's true of any community. My attitude is that there's always opportunity for finding common ground, and that should be our goal. On the subject of rules and regulations, real quick, the rules and regulations are here for a reason. They keep the aesthetic consistency of the colony. They keep home values up. And rules and regulations regarding our common areas where it's a green belt, clubhouse, or pool are there so everybody has fair use of the facilities. And rules and regulations, I have three personal criteria for rules and regulations. Is it needed? Is it reasonable? Will it benefit the community? And lastly, on that subject is I think everything needs to be administered and enforced uniformly throughout the community. So in closing, I thank you, and I feel that if you've heard this, you think I'm the ideal candidate to fill one of the three positions open. I hope you vote for me. Thank you.
Good evening. Whoops, do I have to come down a little? Okay. One of the things I want to start with is thanking the current board for all of the crap, excuse me, that we've gone through in the past year trying to keep the colony safe. We have gone through so many rules. We've had to figure out whether it's a state, a county, a city, whatever it is, to try to keep us safe. And I think the current board has done a good job of that. I'm Joanne Deacon. I'm currently the vice president. I've been on the board for 4.5 years. My husband and I have lived here for almost 20 years. When we moved here, we didn't intend to get involved in anything. We were retired. We played golf. We traveled. We had parties with friends. We did all the fun things that I hope we can get back to. And I volunteered in our grandchildren's classes for about 6 years until the new math came about. And I decided then to volunteer in the colony, and I joined the ACC, the library committee, and I keep wanting to call it environmental protection, but it's an emergency preparedness committee. I'm a block captain. I thought the colony would run perfectly fine without me. I didn't have to get involved. Well, I did get involved, and I was selected to serve about the last 6 months of someone's term on the board, and then I ran, and first year I was treasurer. I learned more that year than I ever have in my life. And I tried at each meeting to explain some of that to the members so that they understood what we were looking at. And Jim Nash ran the following year and won, and I was the happiest person in the whole world because he became treasurer. When I was on the ACC, I put together the project to add brick to the front of your homes. One of the reasons I ultimately did that was because my husband kept pulling in the wrong driveway. So once we did that, he knew where we lived. My work is, history is 25 years with Intel, and it was a startup company when I worked there. It was a great place to work, and I learned a lot, and I've used all those business reasons here in the colony. I'm running for the board again because, one, I just want to get us back to where we have fun, where we are as normal as we're going to be, and we enjoy life here, because I do enjoy life here. We always have. The next thing I want to do is complete several projects that we started. We started a strategic long-range plan for the colony, and we did a lot of brainstorming, and then COVID hit and we couldn't get any further. But what that brought out were the things that we know we have to do, those things that we would like to do, and those things that really don't cost any money. They just take time. So we had started some of those and it came to an end, and I'd like to finish those before I finish my term with the board. One of those might be security cameras, might be something new. Redoing the kitchen is something we have to do next year. I've also worked with a lot of groups in conflict resolution. I've done a couple of focus groups here, and I'd like to do more, especially when it comes to the kitchen, is a focus group that tells you, all the people who are involved and who use it, what do we want, what works, what doesn't work. So get that input from people. I used to teach something called behavioral interviewing to managers at Intel, where it's based on finding out what people actually did. Ask them questions about how they handled situations, not what they would do, because you can make up almost anything. So I hope that you judge me on what I have done in the last 4.5 years. And let's enjoy life. It's time. Thank you.
Thank you all. I think those are all great statements, and it's going to help the voters a lot, I think, from what you've told us. Now it's time to get into the question and answer. Before I do that, I just want to go through and remind you of what the rules are. If you haven't already done so, please submit your candidate question forms to the question review table located adjacent to the auditorium stage. Candidate question forms are located in the back of the room and also at the question review table. As mentioned, no question will be considered for candidate response unless they have been reviewed by the question review panel. Each candidate will respond by turn to each question. Again, please do not direct any questions to a specific candidate. Make sure you keep your questions general and to the point in order to avoid any confusion. So let's get started with the questions. Tom, you're the first up. The question is, what is your best strength and what is your worst weakness?
Wow, I don't have a weakness. So my best strength is telling people to be honest with the people and to tell them the truth. And try to not to put stuff over on them. That's, I could say, my best strength. I like to be very honest and try to save as much money as possible and be an independent thinker. Think outside of the box. So.
Thank you. Bruce?
So my skills are, first off, I have a very, can you guys hear this? Is that better? All right. By nature, I have a very positive outlook on things. I'm very good at finding out how can we do something rather than right away identifying why we can't. Not that we don't need to knock down barriers, we do, we need to identify them and figure out how to work around them. Also, I'm very good at putting myself in the customer's shoes like I talked about. I live on empathy to really understand what the other person, where they're coming from, what the value statement is behind that, and what we can do. I'm very good at working on a team. I've worked in team environments all my life. I'm good at motivating teams, and I can bring people together on a single focus. Conflict resolution is another one. I mean, throughout our careers, we all deal with that, but I was very good when there were conflicts on finding ways to work through it, understanding what's driving the statements, find out what you have in common, start from there, and work together going forward. Those are probably the main points, along with, oh, and my negative point is sometimes I get overly positive, and I need people around me to smack me once in a while and say, come down to earth.
Thank you, Bruce. Joanne?
As Bruce said, conflict management was a lot of what I did with human resources and customer services and the business positions I held. I think from a strength standpoint, when I see something that needs to be done, I start putting it in columns. You could do this, you could do that, research this, look up this. I just don't go off the cuff. I really do research stuff and try to find out what the best way to do it. In terms of a weakness, we have a son who was in a car accident 35 years ago, and we are his guardians. And the patience that it takes to work with someone like that has taught me patience. I was not born with it, believe me. But it has taught me to be patient with people and I know most people are doing the best they can, and I understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Bonnie?
As a realtor, I would say my top one is being a problem solver. As anybody's done a transaction, it's like everybody is the biggest purchase that you'll make. And so everybody's very, very emotional, and you need to calm them down. So I would say problem solving, and that involves thinking outside of the box. And that's not an easy thing to do. And I've thought a lot out of the box, as Kara can probably say. I come up with some great ideas, and they have been used throughout my 15 years here. My weakness is Menchie's yogurt.
Thank you, Bonnie. Wendell?
I would say one of my strong assets is my management background, being a former bank manager, being a former small business owner. I have good management skills. Probably another good asset I think I have is unlimited bound of energy all the time. And I think my weak spot is I have unlimited bound of energy all the time.
Thank you, Wendell. Jim?
It's hard to follow a comedian, but my strength is my technical and management skills, my financial background. I also have a Bachelor of Architecture, which also helps me in sizing up projects. Weakness, to be honest with myself, I tend to be too much of an introvert. I don't talk a lot, so that's probably a negative.
Thank you, Jim. Pam?
I believe my biggest strength, I think, is my integrity. Basically, what you see is what you get. I don't try to manipulate people or pander to people. I just basically put it on the table. And I also think I have an analytical mind. So I look at things where I can take myself and my own personal opinions out of the equation and look at something clean and try to find the best solution, not the best solution just for me. My weakness, I'm not going to tell you guys.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, the second round. Bruce, you're up. And the question is, what do you plan to do to meet the needs of the 1/3 of the colony residents who are new in their 50s and 60s and here for the wellness and resort lifestyle as they transition into retirement?
Yeah, so I'm part of that group. We're fairly new, and we're in that 50s and 60s group. This place has been around for, 32 years, right? And the previous boards have done a great job of looking forward. You probably didn't have pickleball courts when you moved in here in 1989, but that changed because pickleball became something big, so you put those in. We need to be looking forward. What are the things that are important to those people in that group? What's happening out in the world? And what are those things we can be looking at we need to plan for the activities are going to change. We know that, and let's understand what those changes might be. More importantly, let's plan that there will be changes. And I liked what Joanne talked about where she got into long-range planning. We really need to understand it because activities are what really keep those 50 and 60 somethings alive, and that's why they're here.
Thank you, Bruce. Joanne?
Well, I've left that 50s and 60s group. But one of the things I talked about was looking at the new resident orientation. I went to a couple, and I know we need to do some work there to get these people excited, to get them to be part of it, not just listening to it. So I have some ideas, and I know Kara and we can work on some of that stuff. I worked for a company where change was constant. Anyone who works for anyone in that electronics field, every day there was a change. Groups changed constantly. I got to where I like change, which is kind of different for my age group, I think. But we need to look at, actually the survey is a good idea too, because I think we need to ask people, you're new here, you've been here 6 months, what things are we not doing to meet your expectations? And that could be a survey, it could be a focus group, a lot of things that we could do to find out, because the next generations coming in are different. In fact, our children sometimes are old enough to live here now.
Thank you, Joanne. Bonnie?
I think communication is the key here. I was the chairperson for at least 5 years in the communications committee. We're still trying to put together a website that is workable for us and that is easy. We're still working on that. Also, I have an idea about the neighborhood information. Right now, it's never been set up to where we can really use it better. They would do walk-arounds, and there was only a few. I've got some great ideas about that. And also, there's other types of communications that newer people want to use, and we're not using them. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Wendell?
The 50s and 60s, boy, can I remember that. It was way, way, way back yonder, but I remember when I reached that age, it was you were either worried to death what you're going to do with your time. I'm just going to be bored. I don't know what to do. And then there's the other group that, wow, I'm retired, I can do whatever I want and when I want. And that's what we can do here at the colony. And the new people need to be brought in and be inclusive with the people that have been here a long time. In other words, learn what games you like to play, whether it be card games, paddle tennis, golf. We got so much to do here for the new people and the old people. Just one big family.
Thanks, Wendell. Jim?
Thank you. Yeah, I think the activities and services that are offered here at the colony have to evolve with the changing demographics. That's for sure. We've, I think, had an outstanding list of activities and services throughout the years, and so we have to keep up with the times. I remember some figures. I'm not remembering totally correctly, but about 10 years ago, the average age here was, I believe, around 80. And the last I heard, maybe a year ago, it was about 72. So it shows a very changing demographics. At the same time, though, younger crowd, I have 4 immediate neighbors who are single women over 90 years old. And don't forget them.
Thank you, Jim. Pam?
Well, being at this end of the table, a lot of ideas have already been put out there. I think Jim had a great idea of doing a community survey. And I think it should be based around what activities would you like to see in the future? Where would you like the colony to go? And make it clear that this is for different age groups and different physical capabilities. Because we really don't want to forget our fellow neighbors that are, you know, maybe not as spry as some of us are, or not. You know, we want to make it a good lifestyle for everyone here. So I think, you know, instead of being arrogant and saying what I think everybody should have, I think everybody should say what they want to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Joanne, you're up next. The question is, did I miss? Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Tom, you're on.
Thank you. One I want to speak about. I understand there's changes in this world, but that don't mean you shove the old folks out to the graveyard. You know, there's old folks. We can all work together. It's sharing, but not hogging. There's a big difference. And it's the idea that the youngers move in. Believe it or not, I was young once, a long time ago. But anyway, I don't believe that the young people should just absolutely take everything over, because they moved into the 55 and older. We didn't move into their neighborhood. And I think they should be considerate of the older people when they play certain games, and they have to make arrangements for them too. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne, the question is, what is the one change or improvement that you would make to enhance the lives of colony residents?
Well, I talked about strategic long-range planning, and the plan was to put it together a little, add some structure to it, and then take it to a town hall and present it to residents. Here's what we're looking at. What are your thoughts? What are your ideas? Because we've got a wealth of talent out there, and we're not using it always. So that was part of the thing I thought would help people understand, what are we going to be doing in the next 2 to 5 years? The other thing I wanted to add about the last question is we just had a block party about a month ago, and it was a marvelous way to meet all our new neighbors and invite them to all the activities that we're doing. So think about having a block party, but I would want a plan, at least a 2 to 5 year plan for this community. So as we change boards, we still know the direction we're going. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie?
I think that the board has a difficult position of trying to figure out what the people want. And until we have a better way to communicate, it's going to stay that same way. We need to have a better way, and we need it now. I know we're working on a website, but we need more than that, and to get everybody's feedback instead of just a few.
Thank you. Wendell?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to the activities that we have. There's been so many new activities since we moved in here. Paddleball was small, paddleball has become big. Golf was big, now golf's a little smaller. We have pickleball. All these things have been brought forward, I think, by the community so that all of us can have a fun time being retired. And whether it be cards, whether it be mahjong, whatever. I don't drink.
That's a surprise. Jim?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What is the one change or improvement that you would make to enhance the lives of colony residents?
I think I would like to see more focus on resident welfare and more help to people in the community that really need help.
Thank you, Jim. Pam?
So I hear about the website, and I think that that would be kind of a nice improvement for people. I don't understand why we don't have a website right now, because it's pretty simple. There are a lot of companies out there where they have website templates that are specifically for HOAs. We could have a website up and running that's professional. We don't have to pay to design it. All we have to do is upload the data and get up and running. We don't have to worry about the security or anything like that for less than $1,000 a year. Why aren't we doing that? I don't get it.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, Tom.
If you could solve the number one problem in the world, we could all work together. Communication. And if you could communicate with the old and the young combined to work together, and so they would all try to be together. The old don't play as well as the young, and some young don't play as well as the old. But they need to communicate more together and listen to the old people and listen to the young people. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Tom. Bruce?
Yeah, I was going to go the same way. Communication, I think that is absolutely critical going forward. I talked earlier about the different demographic segments. But with better communication, we can work together, just like Tom said, to find things that can help. You know, sometimes you're going to be able to identify things that help small segments, but then you can also find things that help all segments. And through better communication, whether it be through website, whether it be through e-blast, whether it be through text messaging, as you get new younger people coming in, that's going to be a bigger thing. But we can't forget that we got a segment of people here that don't always text, and that's okay. But we've got to have a communication strategy. That's one of those things that will really help bring this community back together and be able to explore new areas.
Thank you, Bruce. Bonnie, you lead off this time. The question is, how do you plan to keep within the approved budget and minimize HOA assessment increases?
Well, that's a great question. Well, first I would involve this guy over here. He's been in the finance committee for a long time. I think it's called common sense. If you use common sense and if all of the people that are in the board would communicate with common sense, I think that will allow you to keep an eye on it and keep the budget down, and also thinking outside the box.
Thank you. Wendell?
Bruce, I'm going to ask you to repeat the question again, please.
How do you plan to keep within the approved budget and minimize HOA assessment increases?
Well, I think the big area that we have the most control of on the board is not the income, because the income is pretty much set already, but it's our expenses. We have to be careful more and more about the expenses. How do we fix something? Is it going to be short-term? Is it going to be long-term? And there we go.
Thank you, Wendell. Jim?
Yeah, having been treasurer for 2 years and worked on budgets for the colony over the past 7 or 8 years, it's a reality. It's a reality check. The reality is, cost of living is going up. Cost of building materials is going up substantially in this last year. We have to expect that there's going to be corresponding increases in dues. We can manage our money better, perhaps. I'm always surprised and shocked that when we have our last 3 years, our budget town hall meetings and workshops, we get 10 to 20 people coming on those meetings. You got to show up and understand understand what's going on and to appreciate the budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Pam?
I'm out. There we go. Hello? No? Is it good? Okay. First, can you guys hear me? I didn't think so. Okay, first I'd like to actually see a detailed budget. I think that would be the first step. And then take a look at all of the areas. I know from all the board meetings that I've seen and everything that we've been letting some contracts out without even competitively bidding them out. So that needs to stop. We need to take a look at some real serious things here. For example, water is going to be a critical thing, and water is going to be a major expense here. There should be an absolute flat-out rule that there is no sprinklers that go off in this colony before 11 o'clock at night or after 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, there's simple things that you can take a look at, like this says, common sense. But take a look at every area, see where we can improve. But the one thing of it is that we have to guarantee that we're not going to lose any quality of services for people. So I think we need to take a hard look at the budget and put pencil to paper.
Thank you, Pam. Tom?
2 facts in life. Ice cream melts, budget's going up. There is no doubt about it, you know. And all we try to do is to keep it to a minimum. And that's all you can do. Spend wisely. Don't overspend. And for 4 years, almost 4 years now, I don't remember the day I got in, almost 4 years ago, I've been trying to get a column in the budget to show where we're at in the 6-month term of a budget. So if you can control it at 6 months, good or bad, but at least you have a chance to control it, not at 12 months. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Bruce?
So in my years of working, it was always, you'd have budgets. Budgets are the guidelines that you want to follow, but budgets change. Circumstances change. And with that, we need to be able to move along with that. And that's why you have reviews. We have management reviews. We would need to make sure we're working with associate at least on a monthly basis. Also little things like the committees and things like that. But one thing that we need to be careful of with a budget, I know nobody wants their HOA dues to go up a lot. And one thing we need to be careful to control those HOA dues is you don't want to say, let's not raise it this year when you know you're going to have to make up for it next year, because if you go 2 years in a row without raising it, then all of a sudden you have to make a $10 jump instead of $2 a year or $3 a year. That's huge, and that's what impacts people more than just raising it incrementally on a smaller basis when you know what's coming.
Thanks, Bruce. Joanne?
When we negotiated the contract with Associa last year, it was 3% for this year. It is 0 for the next coming year. They aren't increasing it at all, so that's one thing you can do is negotiate contracts. The other thing is we really have 3 different buckets of money. We have reserves, and we can make a decision that maybe something is due to be done and it's time in the reserves, but can we kick it out a year and save that money? That's another thing we could do to help with the budget. We do extensive budget reviews. We have nobody that practically shows up to listen to it. We have the budget, the financials every month is this thick and it's passed out. So it's there, it's just you have to dig to understand what you're looking at unless you're a CPA. That's why I said it was a horrible year of learning for me. Learned a lot, but there are some things we can do, and I know we will, because we pay dues just like everybody else. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. The next question is for Wendell. Do you think the current fines and penalties should be reviewed and reduced, especially for first infractions?
Would you repeat again, please? I was busy talking to my neighbor.
That's a shock. Do you think the current fines and penalties should be reviewed and reduced, especially for first infractions?
I've looked over the fines and penalties, and I've actually incurred a few. And I have to say that I think they're pretty fair the way they are. They're not outlandish. They build up slowly if you keep doing the same infraction or other infractions. So I would be content with the way the fines are right now. I would not want to see them raised.
Thanks, Wendell. Pam? I'm sorry, Jim.
That's okay. Pam can go. Hello? Get it working here. What was the question again? That's okay. The fines, I was chairman of the violations committee for a year, and kind of opened my eyes. I do think the fines are fair. I might lean towards maybe being a little lenient on like first offenses. We saw a number of, while I was on the violations committee, first-time offenders say you're running a stop sign. And it's a pretty hefty fine. And some people were saying, I haven't had a ticket in 20 years. And you get one at the colony, and I believe it's $50. So maybe there's a little room for negotiation on the first offenses.
Thanks, Jim. Pam?
I actually agree with that. I think first offenses, you should get a warning, a written warning, and that should be it. As far as the other fines go and everything, I think they're pretty fair. I think that the violations maybe should be a little bit more equally distributed, shall we say. But no, I think we have a pretty good schedule, but I do feel that first offenders should get a violation letter.
Thanks, Pam. Tom?
I've been on the violation committee for 3 years. And I just want to tell anybody out there, if you got a ticket, I voted no to throw the money out, to throw the thing out. But anyway, you still got fined. I think the fines are very generous your stopping signs. You know, there's a lot of people complain because there's a lot of walkers and people run them stop signs all the time. And we hear the complaints on the other end. It's nice to say we give you a warning, but then the next day you run them again. You know, we might not catch you that day, but a lot of people are walking, and it's a safety hazard. There's been some wrecks out here already. You know, you just have to be careful. Just because there's 3 cars at a stop sign and you stop, that means the next car stops too. Don't all 3 go in. And it's a big problem here. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Bruce?
Yeah, first-time offenders, I absolutely believe should get a warning. It's a learning opportunity for them. After that, we have safety issues that we need to worry about. And running stop signs is one of those. We live right by Primavera and Florida there. And some of the people that run through those, it's terrible. So yeah, I'm all for fines and fairly significant ones on that, because we have people here that can't move quickly, and they're taking slow walks. Somebody comes running through. I don't want to put people at danger here and have to worry about that. Security, I don't know all the fines. That's a committee I need to look into more and learn more about it, but that's where I'm at on it.
Thanks, Bruce. Joanne?
The way I believe it's set up is that if it's a safety factor, such as running a stop sign or speeding, there are no warnings. That's a safety factor. Pretty much everything else has a warning. But you're in danger of, I mean, we've had many accidents in here. They're not always reported and you don't know about them, but we had 3 around the Nutmeg Gate about 3 months ago, people running stop signs. So we don't give warnings for that on behalf of the residents to keep us safe. That's our first priority, is to keep everybody safe.
Thanks, Joanne. Bonnie?
I think that the first-time offender with a warning, for most of it, I didn't know about this, and I would look into it. But for the most part, when people are new and they don't exactly know what the rules and regulations are, I think that and if that doesn't work, then have them that they have to join a committee, because we need people to join a committee.
Very good. Okay, Jim, you're up with the next question, which is, what differentiates you from the other candidates? What differentiates you from other candidates?
Well, I'm certainly taller than anybody else, that's for sure. Is that what you meant?
I could see that coming.
I think it comes down to my background in financial consulting, having worked on the board for 2.5 years, being treasurer for 2 years. I have a deep understanding of the finances here. And that probably, looking around, sets me apart.
Thank you. Pam?
Well, I think mostly it's my business background, which is pretty broad as far as the things that I had to have experience with. Not only financial, as far as like supply chain for goods and contracts and conflict resolution with employees. And I think that there's kind of a misnomer of what conflict resolution actually is. And it's not what a lot of people think it is. It's basically getting two parties together. And it's kind of more or less like a mediator. But in any event, I think that's my strength. That, and to be able to see through a lot of minutia and get right down to the bottom line and find the best way to solve a problem, and the easiest way and most beneficial.
Thank you. Tom?
My difference, I think, is I've been self-employed for 40 years, and any mistakes I made came out of my wallet. And that's very important. Every time I made a call and they called wrong, I paid for it. And I think I understand more about taking money from other people than when I know, because it came out of my wallet 100% all the time. And I think that you need to, the board members, whoever you vote, need to be thinking outside of the box, not with one person. They need to be an independent thinker. And I think that's very important.
Thanks, Tom. Bruce?
All right, so mine's probably just, it's the combination. I've got a pretty good business background. I'm pretty good at understanding value propositions. I've negotiated a lot of contracts. But I think one thing that I bring to the table is I'm fairly good at being able to identify other people's strengths and then finding ways to leverage those strengths. Because once you can start leveraging other people's strengths, and especially when you understand what your weaknesses are, that's where you can really pull the power out on getting things done and head in the right direction.
Thanks, Bruce. Joanne?
I'll tell you what other people tell me, and they say that I have common sense and that I explain things in a way that they can understand. And I found that to be very true as treasurer, that I had to be able to understand it myself and then explain it to others, which is an old way of learning, is to be able to explain it to others. Not much makes me mad or upsets me. I try to find a way to understand what's going on, the emotional part plus the facts. I like to research. I don't like to just make jump decisions. And I enjoy living here. I don't see a million things wrong. I see things that do need to change, and I know we're working on them, and I want to work on them, but we're not falling apart. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Bonnie?
As a realtor, I can bring a unique perspective. And I go to other HOAs, 55-plus communities, as well as others, and see things that are working for them and things that are not working for them. And I also can see how we maintain our properties here and enhance our properties here compared to other communities as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Wendell.
Least I forget, please remember that all our qualifications are over there on the table. Please take them with you so you know what our backgrounds are. I myself, I think I have a pretty broad background, probably broader than most people. I've been in the construction business, I've been in church youth work, I've been on church boards, and all these things, and charitable organizations. I bring all these things to the table, which, to be a board member, and I think that's what one of the things that makes me unique.
Thank you, Wendell. Pam, you're next. The question is, what do you think has caused the tension or division among colony residents? How do you propose bringing residents back together?
Good question. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with kind of territorial. For some reason, there seems to be some resistance about handling the HOA business in a very open, and I hate to use the word transparent because it's the most overused word in here, but in a real open manner and really engaging the residents instead of dictating to them. So I think that's, you know, probably one of the best things to bring the community together is by engaging them. I think a website is a good way of doing it. I think the survey is an excellent way of doing it. And I think, you know, not having the process of serving on a committee jumping through so many hoops. You know, let's welcome people if they want to volunteer, not put them through an interview process.
Thanks, Pam. Tom?
Well, back to communication. We need to all communicate together. And somebody spoke about this a little while ago. The last finance committee, I think somebody said 20, I think there was 12 people. And you know, that's the most important thing for you guys to do out there is come and listen to the budget, because we're going to tell you how to spend your money. You should be saying how we spend your money. And people should take that very serious, is because I think we could probably get you all in here if we're going to say everything's going to go up $20. I'll guarantee everybody be in here. But people need to show up for that meeting. It's very important, very important. Don't let somebody spend your money without you having to say so.
Thank you, Tom. Bruce?
So we all have our own ideas on, you know, how to do different things, and that's going to happen. But we need to remember that we're a community here. We're like a small town in here. And what's happened is we've lost sight that how good things are. You concentrate too much on everything that's wrong. That's what's going to cause this type of tension that we've seen in our community. We got to get rid of it. And it's kind of turned into like what's happening outside the gate. It's a tribal mentality. We got to remember that this place is run by the residents here. You know, the people in the clubs are residents. The people in the committees are residents. The people on the board are residents. These are our friends and our neighbors, and it starts with respect. And the respect starts when there's going to be times we disagree, and respect starts when you agree to disagree and move on and move forward.
Thanks, Bruce. Joanne?
Would you please ask the question again? I know it had COVID, and that was all I remembered.
What do you think has caused the tension or division among colony residents? How do you propose bringing residents back together?
Okay, well, that's where the COVID came from. You know, an active mind doesn't have time to worry about petty little things. If you're physically active or mentally active, you stay busy and you get things done. But when we sat in our homes and couldn't do anything, we kind of went nuts in some cases. We got to thinking about things that we normally wouldn't think about and probably would have considered them too small to worry about in the past, and now they became large. And we've seen that. I think just getting out, being busy, active, whatever you want to do it. Don't just sit in your house, because that's when your mind starts to think about these divisive things and what's my neighbor doing that I don't like. We've got some great people in here, and we just had a whole total changeover on our street of 37 homes almost, and we've still got marvelous new neighbors, but they want to know what's going on, what can we do, and we need to help them do that. We just need to stay more active mentally or physically, or both.
Thank you, Joanne. Bonnie?
I think you need to have a calm demeanor, and just let it roll off of your back. You know, whatever, don't take it personally. I think you were referring to the board, or was this in general?
I think it's pretty much general.
Okay. Well, I think come to karaoke and sing, and you'll feel better.
Wendell?
Well, this is going to be a long, long answer. Take what Joanne just said, add it to what Bruce just said. That's my answer. We've got a wonderful, wonderful place here, and COVID started us off spending too much time in the house, getting fidgety about things, making up rumors, all sorts of things. We need to get the negative out, and I think Bruce and Joanne just stated it 100% perfect. I can't add to it.
Thanks, Wendell. Jim?
I think the divisiveness that exists in the colony kind of mirrors what's happening in the country. I think when you look at Congress, you look at recalls, it spills over into even our tiny community. One solution, and if you think of us, the board, as being Congress, if you have that in your mind, is the board needs to be cohesive. It needs to be a body that works together. We can get so much more done efficiently and faster if there is that cohesiveness.
Thank you, Jim. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our question period. I would like to thank the board candidates for putting up with the Inquisition tonight. But mostly what I want to thank them for, they are all willing to give up some of their personal time to work for the colony. I think they all deserve a hand. That wraps it up. Thank you all for coming.